Hello, thank you for choosing to watch a New Life video. I'm Matt with New Life Church, and we're continuing our study of the heroes of faith that are mentioned in Hebrews 11. We're continuing the story of Jacob, the life of Jacob, everything that he went through. We're picking up in Genesis chapter 31. You may recall that he had basically cheated his brother out of his birthright and his blessing, and then fled to his mother's brother, his uncle, and then he worked there and got swindled somewhat, and married his uncle Laben's two daughters, and so he's been there a while and has prospered, and basically ended up with more cattle than his uncle Laban, more livestock than him. And so in chapter 31, verse 1, it says, "Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what was our father's he has acquired all this wealth." So his cousins are basically saying that Jacob stole from their father. Everything he has should be theirs, really, because what was their father's would end up being theirs. So they're very upset. And in verse 2 it says, "And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, his uncle, and indeed it was not favorable toward him as before." You ever been friends with someone, getting along with them, and then one day you just notice they are not as friendly toward you as they used to be? That's what Jacob is going through. His uncle is not liking him anymore. So verse 3, "Then the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your family, and I will be with you." So he tells him two things. One is his instructions. Go back home. It's been about 20 years since then, maybe a little more. So it's return. But then something very important is said. And what is that? The Lord said, "I will be with you." And he is with us everywhere. And usually we do think that's good, but here's one thing to remember. When you're doing wrong, guess where God is? He's still with you. And you may hide it from your pastor, from your best friend, your wife, whatever. But God sees it too. But more importantly, when you're in a situation where nobody can help you, it seems, God is with you there too. He's with you to the ends of the world. So verse 4, "So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah, his wives, to the field, to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's countenance, that is not favorable toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me." And that's a great testimony that God has been with him. "And you know that with all my might I have served your father. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not allow him to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And if he said thus, the streaked shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it happened at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. Then the angel of the Lord spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, and where you made a vow to me. Now arise, get out of this land, and return to the land of your family. So he called his wives and told them all this. Excuse me. He said that we got to leave. Verse 14, then Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there still any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not considered strangers by him? For he has sold us and also completely consumed our money. So apparently Laban isn't being all that good to his daughters anymore either. For all these riches which God has taken from our father are really ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do it. So verse 17. Verse 17. Then Jacob rose and set his sons and his wives on camels. And he carried away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gained, his acquired livestock which he had gained in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the household idols that were her father's. And so in Genesis 31, we're seeing that Laban is busy, and so Jacob leaves without telling Laban that he's gone. He's leaving with his wives, children, flocks, everything. But Rachel, for some reason, is stealing a household idol. He doesn't know about that. So, verse 20, and Jacob stole away unknown to Laban the Syrian, in that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had. He arose and crossed the river and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. So he's gone. He's out of there. Verse 22, and Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. So then Jacob's gone for 3 days, and Laban finally hears Jacob's gone. So what's his reaction? Then he took his brethren with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. So that's very determined. He was very determined to catch up with Jacob, to go 7 days. This is not a 7-day car chase. This is 7 days either on foot or on camel or horseback, but it was not a pleasant ride. It was not easy to get around in those days. Might be fine to be driving a nice luxury car for 7 days, but so he was very determined. Verse 24, though, but God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. So God spoke to Laban before he caught up with Jacob. So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountain of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done, that you have stolen away, unknown to me, and carried away my daughters like captives, taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and songs, with timbrel and harp. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. So that's the first thing he's saying to him, is, why'd you run away like that? We could have thrown a big party for you and sent you away. You didn't let me kiss my daughters goodbye. And he might have said sons, he meant grandsons. Verse 29, it is in my power to do you harm. Wow. So first he's saying, yeah, you didn't let me kiss my daughters goodbye. I ought to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. So it looks to me like he really was going to do something. Would he have killed Jacob, or try to kill Jacob and take everyone back with him? Who knows? But God warned Laban not to do it. And by doing that, he was taking care of Jacob. What did God promise Jacob? That he would be with him. And he prevented whatever harm Laban would have done. Verse 30. And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? You may remember that Rachel stole a household idol. Don't know why she did that, but she did. But verse 31, then Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what I have of yours and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, into the two maids' tents, looking everywhere, but did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent and did not find them. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is with me. And he searched, but did not find the household idols. And so after all this searching, searched all these tents, he didn't find these idols. So verse 36, then Jacob, who didn't know anything about it, Jacob was angry and rebuked Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin that you have so hotly pursued me? And you may remember, it was 7 days hard riding he was after him. Although you have searched all my things, what part of your household things have you found? Set it here before my brethren and your brethren, that they may judge between us both. You know, and then apparently he's feeling like ranting right now because of what he's going to go on. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was, in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus I have been in your house 20 years. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. That was quite a rant. 20 years of frustration seemed to come out of Jacob there. I've been working in the night, in the cold of the night, in the heat of the day. All this. So, and unless God had been with me, I'd have had nothing to show for it. And God did bless Jacob, according to his promise. Verse 43, and Laban answered and said to Jacob, these daughters are my daughters. These children are my children. This flock is my flock. All that you see is mine. Yeah, so basically he's saying everything that Jacob had gotten was was his. It originated with him, but Jacob had earned it according to the conditions of the wages, what he worked for. But so he's just saying, "Oh, everything is mine." But what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? Now therefore come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me. So this is a big reason of why he hotly pursued Jacob. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brethren, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. Laban called it Jegar Sahadutha, which is Aramaic for heap of witness. But Jacob called it Galid, which is Hebrew for heap of witness. And Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me this day." Therefore, its name was called Galid, also Mitzpah, which means watch, because he said, "May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives beside my daughters, although no man is with us, see God as a witness between you and me." And that's certainly true. God does see everything you do. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Here is the heap, and here is this pillar, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge between us." And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning Laban arose and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. So, what do we learn from this chapter? Anything? Well, one thing we see is, you see sometimes when God is blessing someone, others will start to get very jealous. That's not a very good thing. Covetousness is not good. In fact, it's in the Ten Commandments not to covet. And sometimes it's time to leave. Sometimes God will put you in a place for a particular amount of time, and while you're there, you serve God there, and then one day it's time to serve God somewhere else, and God will lead you. Another thing is God is with us always. God is with Jacob. God is with all of us, and He sees us whether we're doing good or bad, and if we're following Him, He will make sure that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. And God even, in this case, spoke to Laban to make sure that he wouldn't do any harm to Jacob. And so Jacob is getting closer to home. Next lesson we'll be talking about what happens just before he gets to the place where his brother lives, and how that works out. But basically God was with Jacob here, and God will be with you if you serve Him, if you make Him the Lord of your life. I hope this has been a blessing. Until next time, go with God.